Welcome back to the Daily Meditation. Today, I would like to discuss how to change bad habits to good ones. Now, let's just get this up front. Absolutely every single person in the world has at least a couple of bad habits. Some are worse than others. Smoking and drinking are particularly bad. But then you may also have some kind of trivial bad habits, like just biting your nails or something like that. Either way, if you want to change your habits, how do you do it? Now, what I'm about to say to you may seem a little bit strange at first, but I promise that it's going to make sense by the end of this. So, there are two things that you need in order to genuinely and continually change bad habits to good habits. Those two things are 1, curiosity, and 2, mindful awareness. Now, I know that sounds a little bit strange. Why would curiosity, of all things, help you? For instance, if you're a smoker, normally you're told to go to the doctor, get a prescription, go to all the quit smoking websites, maybe get therapy. Let me tell you the truth about that. All those things are designed to take power away from yourself. If, for instance, you take medication to stop an addiction, you are becoming reliant on the medication to change that. And the only thing that you truly need to be reliant on is yourself. Now, I'm going to explain to you in this how you can change your bad habits continually to good habits just by being a little bit curious and a little bit mindful and aware. So if you want to change your bad habits, you first have to understand exactly where bad habits come from and why you do them. There are 3 stages involved in any bad habit that you perform. The first stage is the trigger stage. Now, this is the stage when something triggers your mind in order to want to perform whatever bad habit it is that you do. There are tons of different things that could trigger you. For instance, if you're a drinker, you might simply go for a drink after work. You hear the buzzer at work or the clock says 5 o'clock and hey, that's drink time. If you're a smoker, you might just see somebody else having a cigarette. Oh, hey, that seems like a good idea. I think I'll have a cigarette. You could also have internal triggers. For instance, some triggers are emotional. For instance, you feel frustrated. So you go and do your bad habit in order to distract you from the negative emotion. So the first stage, as I say, is all about triggers. That's what encourages you, what triggers you to go and perform whatever negative habit it is that you perform. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is the actual habit that you perform. Now, this is obviously the most obvious stage, because if you smoke or drink or whatever bad habit it is that you do, you're already probably aware of it. So I feel like I don't need to explain step 2 anymore. It's simply the habit that you do. Now, step 3 is a very, very important part of the entire process. So step 3 is the sense of reward that you get from performing the action or the bad habit that you perform. Now, some bad habits have inherent rewards in them. For instance, most substance abuses trigger a dopamine release. Dopamine is a neurochemical that makes you feel good. So the reward is that you feel good. Then again, you might have other bad habits that aren't substance related, but that still give you a sense of reward. For instance, maybe just biting your nails just, feels pretty satisfying, actually. That's really quite enjoyable. Whatever it is, there will be some sense of reward that your brain gets from performing a bad habit. Now, this is true. Neuroscientifically, this is true of every single bad habit that there is in the entire universe. It's a 3-stage process. 1, Something triggers you and basically gets your mind thinking about doing the bad habit. Stage 2, you go and do the bad habit. And stage 3, your brain gets some sense of reward from having done that bad habit. So if you want to change any habit or any addiction, you need to work on those 3 stages. You need to work on the trigger stage. So what triggers me and what do I do about it? The behavioral stage. So that's the bad habit that you're actually doing, and you can change that to other things to do. And 3, the reward stage. You need to change the way in which your brain processes this habit, because right now your brain thinks it's a good thing, and you need to convince your brain and your mind that actually what you're doing is a really, really bad thing. Okay? So, as I said in the beginning, the only thing that you need, well, there's 2 things. There's 2 things that you need to continually change bad habits to good habits. The first is curiosity, and the second is awareness. So let me talk about that. Why curiosity? That's a weird thing to say that curiosity will change your habits. But specifically, I'm talking about curiosity of what is happening in your mind at any given time. So if you want to change a habit, you have to investigate what it is that triggers you. What is it that happens in your day-to-day life that makes you feel like you need to go and do whatever it is that you do? Now, incidentally, this is also why awareness and mindfulness is massively important, because in order to actually observe what's going on inside your mind, you need enough clarity of mind to perceive things. You need insight, which is why I personally recommend meditating for at least 20 minutes per day. Although meditation is not the only option, anything that you can do to clear your mind, whether it's going for a run, whether it's just sitting in the park, whatever it is, anything you can do to clear your mind is going to allow you to better observe what is happening in your mind. So, to give you an example of what I'm talking about, I'm going to discuss smoking. So when you smoke, the first thing that happens is something triggers you to have a cigarette. Now, what triggers you is going to be entirely dependent on you, because it's your addiction, it's your habit. But there's a ton of things that people can get triggered by. You could get triggered by an emotion. You could feel frustrated, you could feel sad, you could feel angry. An emotion can cause the trigger that makes you go and do your habit. So emotions are one thing you can be triggered by. Then there's external things. For instance, maybe something bad happens at work and something just peeves you off, you know. Maybe somebody just gets on your nerves and you're like, oh, sod this, I'm gonna go and have a cigarette right now because I'm getting really freaking annoyed. By understanding what triggers your habit, you can then say, okay, when this happens, when I feel angry, or when this person does that, or whatever it is, that's when I go and perform my bad habit. Now that you know what triggers you, there's a couple of things that you can do about it. Well, actually, there's a ton of things that you can do about it. You could choose to ignore the person who's annoying you. You could choose to take steps to be more emotionally calm so that you don't feel frustration or anger or whatever it is. You can change your thoughts. You can process thoughts differently. There's a million different things that you can do differently. And it doesn't really matter what exactly you do. All that matters is that you become aware of what is triggering you. And you understand in your mind, okay, when this happens, I do that. So therefore, if I change this from happening, or if I process this differently in my mind, I will no longer need to do that. So that's the trigger stage. The second stage, as I said, is the behavior, the action, the habit. This is when you do whatever it is that you don't want to do. Now, what you have to understand about the action stage is that it's basically a bridge. So let's say you're feeling bad, you want to feel good. Your brain has it inside of you, it has the idea that your bad habit will form a bridge between how you feel right now, which is bad, annoyed, or whatever, and how you want to feel, which is good. So, okay, I feel bad. I need this bridge, which is having an alcoholic beverage, in order to get me to this place, which is feeling good. So how do you change that bridge? Well, you can change that bridge however you want, as long as you understand that it's a bridge. You have to understand that what your brain is doing is taking you from point A of feeling bad to point B of feeling good. And then there's a million different bridges that you can take to get yourself to feel good. Maybe you just go for a walk. Maybe you do some exercise. Maybe you sit and meditate. Maybe you enjoy a healthy snack. Maybe you talk to a friend. There's a million things that you can do to change this bridge. The bridge from bad to good does not have to be your bad habit. Explore different ways to change the bridge from bad to good. Now I'm gonna just recall what we've gone through right now, because we've gone through quite a bit. So we've gone through stage one. Stage one is the trigger. The trigger is something happens that you don't like. It peeves you off. It makes you feel sad. Whatever it is, that's the trigger. Stage two is the bridge from feeling bad to feeling good. Now you can change the trigger by avoiding it, by changing the way you process it, by if there's like a problem that's making you feel bad, by dealing with the problem, you can change the trigger. You can change the bridge. You change the bridge by simply saying, okay, like what else can I do to make myself go from feeling bad to feeling good? Because it doesn't have to be this bad habit. It could be anything. So explore different ways to go from feeling bad to feeling good. And then stage three is the reward stage. So the reward stage is especially massive if you're dealing with any kind of addiction, because addictions are designed in such a way that they chemically create good feelings inside your brain. So you need to balance this out. You need to change the way in which your brain processes your habit. Because right now, your brain says, okay, this habit makes me feel good. It's a good thing. Your habit, your brain, doesn't know that the habit is actually a bad thing. It just says, oh, I do this and then I feel really good, so I'm going to continue to do it. So you need to change the way in which your brain processes the reward. And the way in which you do that is simply by reminding yourself that actually this habit is pretty bad. And if I'm doing this right now, I ought to feel pretty terrible. And a lot of people don't like doing this, but it's really important. You need to stop yourself from feeling good by doing your habit. And the only way to do that is to make yourself feel worse when you're doing your habit. So if you're having a cigarette, constantly remind yourself that you're killing yourself. Because then, even though you're doing this habit, your brain won't get the reward that it's craving. And then sooner or later, your brain will say, hey, hang on a minute. This whole habit thing doesn't make me feel good anymore. I don't really know why I'm bothering to do this. So, to recap, there are 3 stages to changing a bad habit. 1, your trigger. What is it that makes you feel bad, that then makes you need to do your habit? How do you change that? You're the master of your own life. So find ways to change that trigger. Only you can change it. You're in control of yourself. But you have to understand that bad things happen that trigger you. So what can you do to change that trigger? That's step 1. Step 2, the trigger, the bridge that goes the habit, the bridge that goes from feeling bad to feeling good. How do you change that habit? What can you do instead? What other pathways are there from feeling bad to feeling good? Because the habit is one of infinite ways that you can go from feeling bad to feeling good. So change it. And the reward. Force yourself to stop feeling good when you perform your habit. Now, I know that sounds weird. Make yourself deliberately feel like crap. Doesn't sound like a good thing to do, does it? But the thing is, if you do that, your brain will learn that this habit is not going to reward you, it's going to punish you. And then your brain will no longer crave the habit because it won't equal feeling good. Change your trigger, change your behavior or your habit, change your sense of reward. If you continually do these three things, any habit that you have in the world, you can change from bad to good. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like and subscribe. And if you would like to book a meditation lesson with me, you may do so using the link in the description.